Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for resume and interviewing tips with employer partner AppleOne. We have a speaker, Bob Thompson, on the call today. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Mariana Hernandez. I'm the Assistant Program Manager of Workforce Development here at LAEDC, and I am joined by my colleague, Jose Pelayo. Jose, if you want to say hi.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. You guys are in for a good presentation. Hope you guys can engage and, take the opportunity to learn. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Jose. We also have a senior director, Jermaine Hampton, who is not on the call, but he's part of our team as well. So today's workshop was brought about through a partnership that we have with the community colleges called the LA19 Partnership. And so we do all types of webinars, whether they be around resume tips, career awareness, work-based learning opportunities, and we also have some with faculty around program advisories. So if you're interested in learning more about these webinars or this partnership, you can visit the link on your screen. We'll also be sharing the link to the recording, so you'll have access to that as well. But again, thank you so much for joining us. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a feedback poll. We'd just like to know if you enjoyed the webinar and would like to learn more about future webinars. So at this time, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Bob Thompson.
Perfect. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Thumbs up. Perfect. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
And you can see me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, as I let them know earlier, I didn't know we were being taped, so I didn't do hair and makeup. So I hope I'm presentable for everybody there. And I hope you enjoy this little adventure here in understanding how to write your resume and how to practice for your elevator pitch. Susanna, did you want to do the introduction here?
Sure, I can go ahead and do that. First of all, hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mariana and Jose, for having us be a part of this workshop and being able to present what we have for all of our participants. My name is Susanna Grijalva, and I am the interim manager for the AppleOne Educational and Career Partnership Department. And I am also here with Christopher, who is also my partner in the department as well. And we are very happy to introduce to you Bob Thompson, who will talk a little bit about himself and about AppleOne. But please let us know if you have any questions or if you'd like to follow up with us as well. I'll be moderating the chat too for our team. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop that into the chat and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And as mentioned, I am Bob Thompson. First, before getting into AppleOne, I'll let you know a little bit about me. My degree is in accounting. I spent 5 years in accounting, and I sat in front of a recruiter, and they said, you should be on our side of the desk. So lo and behold, in 1989, I got into recruiting, and I'm still here. And I enjoy it, and I love what I do, and I do a lot of giving back and workshops to different campuses and organizations throughout the LA area. So I welcome any feedback and any questions that you have. AppleOne is an employment service. Obviously, we are a division of ActOne group of companies. ActOne is a woman minority-owned business, and AppleOne is the employment side of the ActOne group of companies. Opened in 1964, we connect basically a person to a person. We work with our candidates, our individuals that are looking for work, and connect them with our clients. And we believe, and our founder believed, that the candidate is the center of the universe. We do everything from temp to hire, and direct hire. We do have internships as well, internal, and sometimes our clients look for people during the summertime as well. They don't necessarily call them internships, but they can work as that just to get hands-on work experience. If you're interested in that, obviously you'll visit the website or work with Susanna and Chris on that. The workshop roadmap: understanding how to build a strong resume, dress to impress, prepare for interviewing, crafting your elevator pitch, networking like a pro, and follow up. Once we start into this, it kind of all just downloads and flows really well into each other. So if you learn the front part, the back part is real easy. Building a strong resume, your resume is written for the position you want, not necessarily the jobs you've done. And that's an important factor. And if you get nothing out of this workshop other than that, it'll be a success because you write your resume for the position you want and not the job that you've done necessarily. So with that, we'll move forward and you'll understand why. There's two types of positions that people look for. They're looking for jobs, which is mostly skill-based, or they're looking for a career. The difference is a job-based resume is just pure skills. Companies are going to go look at your resume and just seek out the skills that they need to be accomplished. I need somebody to do some data entry. I need somebody to do customer service and just answer 100 calls a day. They're going to look at your resume for the particular skills, and that's about it for the most part. The career one shows a little bit more transition, that you're looking for a certain profession, that you have some achievements or some accomplishments and some skill sets that go along towards that profession. So just a little bit different. And if people are looking for both, it's going to be just a combination of both. But the resume is written for one person and one person only, and that's the person that's going to hire you. People make a big mistake sometimes when they write their resume like a buffet line. It's not one size fits all, and we are not going to a buffet line and trying to order one specific thing. You sit down, you order one specific thing, and that's what you get. And that's what a resume is designed for. Most people want to give people an option on their resume. I'm not going to look for that option on the resume. I need to see it right there. I'm moving on to the next resume. So target your resume, and you can have different resumes for different options and opportunities, but have each one speaking towards one particular individual. I saw somebody that said they want to be in accounting. So your target audience might be an accounting manager. If you're in film, your target audience might be a producer, and think about what they're looking for. So we'll get into that a little bit more in depth as well. But the more you refine your resume to speak to the target audience, the more focused and better your response will be for your search. And I hope that makes sense for everybody. When you develop your resume, once you've established who that end user of your resume is going to be, that person that's going to hire you, you need to have, when you have the direction, you need to start understanding what skills you possess and take inventory of yourself. Those that are in accounting know that any manufacturing company, anybody that sells something, does inventory for what they have on hand. You need to do inventory for what you possess, and more importantly, what skills you want to bring forward. So, and you also need to know what skills to leave off, because you're not going to be everything to everybody. And some of the things that you've done in the past, you may not like. Let's leave them off the resume. A resume is not a legal document. It's a snapshot. It's a headshot of who you are, what you can do walking through the door to potentially take off their plate. And it's to get an interview. Once you get an interview, you can talk all you want. But resumes, if you give too much information, this little 6 seconds down here is very true. 6 seconds on a resume. And if I cannot understand who you are and what you're looking for in 6 seconds or less, I'm on to the next resume. We live in a world of swipers. You swipe just as much as everybody else does, and we don't read. I look for a few key things, and if I'm doing a resume search, your resume either comes up in my search, or it's down in my search, or not in my search. And then I really do devote probably 3 seconds or less for most resumes. And most people are that way as well when I look at my client side. So when you're writing your resume, just keep the direction in mind of the hiring authority and what you're going to do to capture their attention in 6 seconds or less. How do you do that? Well, first of all, you understand how a company brings your resume up. It's very impersonal. It's a word search. So if I'm looking for, let's say the film individuals on here want to get in production, I'll do a job search, or I'll do a search in a resume database that says production assistant. And that'll bring up a lot of resumes. And then I'll probably put in a few skill sets, maybe some language skill sets that I need, or a couple computer applications that I need. And that's it. You'll either have those on your resume and it comes up on my search, you have some of them, or you have none of them. Very impersonal. So understand, that's why if you understand who your target audience is, and I always point up here because I usually draw a stick figure on a resume and say, okay, that's your target audience. Your target audience is looking for a certain thing. If you know your target audience, you know that you speak to them in their language, what they're looking for, because they'll identify it a lot quicker. They're going to pick up the phone and call you or shoot you an email. So how do we do that? Well, when you're in a word search, just so you understand, I can put in, and this is our database. If I just put in looking for an individual in our database, there's over 19 million in our database. If I put in one word, it brings it down to 1 million or 3 million. If I put in a couple different words, it brings it down to 4 million. If I put in, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keywords in our search, it brings it down to 1,700. And that can happen in a matter of probably 2 seconds. And then I'll probably put one more in to bring it down to a manageable 100. So just so you know what happens on our side, when companies go into Monster, when they go into Career Builder, when they go into LinkedIn, we all do keyword searches, and your resumes either have the search words on it or it doesn't. And if you have 3 of the 4, it's going to come on my list, but it's going to come down a little bit. And let's hope that the people up here don't pique my interest really quick and I stop the search. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. You do the same thing when you go on and you're searching for maybe a restaurant, and then you're searching for an Italian restaurant, and then you're searching for pizza. You're kind of drilling down and getting that funnel down and down. Why do we do this and show you this part of it? Because a resume is just to get your foot in the door. An average resume that an average employer is going to look at has a format of an objective, work experience, education, and skills, and we know where to go look at it right on the resume. The more you try to complicate things, the more apt it is. I'm sliding it over and going to the next one. The objective, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. It's an age-old question. You can't have one without the other. But the objective, you'll ask people and some will say no, some will say yes. There's always this constant disagreement on it. The beautiful thing about an objective is it allows you to put a title on your resume that might not be there. I don't want a whole dissertation paragraph of what you're looking for because I'm not going to read it. But the objective does. Let's say the accountant here wants to get in to be a staff accountant, but they've never done accounting before. The objective would be to secure a position as a staff accountant so that you come up in a staff accountant word search. So it allows you to put a title on your resume that might not be on there. Or if you're looking to change your direction of your profession, it'll just be, yes, indeed. In fact, I am looking for this, not to continue what I've been doing. So you don't have to have an objective on there, but if you need to use it to your advantage, feel free to do it. Just don't give me a long paragraph because I'm not going to read it. Work experience comes next. When writing a resume, first go over each position you had with the company. I ask people when I interview them and when I teach them how to write a resume is to look at their last position, tell me what you did and put percentages by it. And what I mean by that is that 10% of my time was answering phones, 30% of my time was doing data entry, 40% of my time was doing research. I'm not sure my math right now, 40, 80, 20% of my time is doing special projects. Most people stop right there and write their resume there. I take it to the next level and okay, and this is what you should do on a piece of paper or on your computer at home. Go into the 10% of answering phones. 10% of time answering phones. Was it inbound? Was it outbound? Did you have to transfer? Did you have to use a specific software to answer the phones with? Like we're on Jabber. Did you have to transfer into voicemail? How many calls on average did you do? Let's drill down. Let's qualify and quantify what you do because people can get a visual. Now, the 30% data entry, was it alpha? Was it numeric? Was it alphanumeric? Was it accounting invoices that you were data entering? Was it customer service complaints that you were data entering? And how much did you data enter per day or per week? If I'm doing, let's say for the accounting people, let's say I'm doing accounts payable, I'm doing data entry on that, and I'm inputting 50 resume or 50 invoices a week. There's the difference between 50 and 500. So again, that reader's going to get a visual real quick when they look at certain things on your resume. So if you break down what you did in that position to the next level, then you have a laundry list of all of your skills you've done. So in other words, you're taking inventory of who you are and what you possess. Now we can turn around and write your resume, picking and choosing which line items you want to use, polishing it up a bit, of course. But when you write your resume with the highest level of responsibilities as it speaks to that individual. Now, there's ways of waving a generic wand over things. And let's say if you worked for a bank and you don't want to stay in banking, you didn't have branches, you had different locations or different subsidiaries. So you don't come up in word searches for branches or for banks, because banks will do certain keywords for their industry. So if you want to kind of break the mold of the industry you've been in or the profession you've been in, just look at the keywords that you have and see how transferable they are to another word that's in that profession. You could work a cash register at Walmart and you're doing daily cash receipts. You're balancing your cash. It's just turning it into a different language so that the reader identifies with it, and you're going to start speaking that language as well, which is towards the profession that you want to go into. I hope that settles with everybody, because that is the key to writing a resume. And the treasure is in the detail. Most people write their resume here on the red line. I want you to go in and start drilling down, do it with family or friends. Nothing worse than having an interview with somebody and all of a sudden you ask them, what did you do? And they're looking up, they're looking down, they're saying, If you go through this exercise, you are prepared to answer any question that's thrown at you, because if you think it, if you write it and you read it and then you speak it, you own it. So you're refreshing your brain. And again, I said these things trickle down when you're writing your elevator pitch. When you're in an interview, things are going to come a lot clearer to you because you've brought things to the forefront and not sitting way back there. So the treasure is in the details. Detail it out. And what you did, if it's research, how did you research? Did you research online? Did you research special sites online or different types of companies online? Data entry, what did you data enter into? Did you enter into Excel? Did you have to create that Excel spreadsheet, or was it a spreadsheet you already used? Was it an ERP system, an enterprise level system like SAP, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, QuickBooks, things like that? And then projects. If you did projects, did you design the project? Did you have to start from inception? How did you do it? Piece it out, and then you can understand how to put it back together if you want to. Remember, writing it for the position you want. Not everything will go on that resume because not everything needs to be seen by that person. The way I look at it is, we're in the relationship building business. Your interview is like a date. If you go on a first date and that person tells you everything about their background from the time they were born to present, you're going to excuse yourself to the restroom and crawl out the window. You're going to only give them as much information as they need to know to hopefully get to that next step. That's the best way I can explain it. You don't have to put everything on a resume. You just have to know what the end user needs. If you don't know what the end user needs, research. Look at the jobs on Indeed or LinkedIn or Career Builder. If you're looking for, let's say, an accounting clerk, an accounts payable clerk, look at the positions, look how they're worded, look how they're phrased, look what skill sets they need. Then you have an idea of what a typical accounts payable clerk might do and how to write your resume or restate things that might lead you to that. And I hope that really, really sinks in, because this is critical. And then it helps you build your elevator pitch. It helps you in the interviews right on down the line. We could stop here and you'll know how to put everything together. Your resume will either say, I can bake a cake, very subjective. And most people say on their resume, I can bake a cake. Or does it show the full ingredients? Now, if I come to somebody and I say, can you bake a cake? And they say, yes, excuse me. The other person says, well, I go to the cupboard, I get this, and this, and this out, and go through the ingredients. I know they know how to bake a cake. It's up to us to take this, break it down into this, and then off of this part over here on the recipe, what do we transfer onto our resume? Now, if you have that all listed on your computer on a piece of paper, you can pick and choose and make your resume different for each person that you send it to. And that's impactful and it's empowering too, because you're writing it for that specific position. Or just have a generic resume that has the flavor moving towards that. I say flavor because we just had a recipe there. So little humor, but I can't see anybody laughing. So hopefully you are. For your skills and duties, to me, again, if you're working in a certain profession and you want to kind of break that mold, try to look at the generic way of stating things. But also when you have skills, keep in mind that certain skills are hard skills and certain are soft skills. Now, when I'm in a room full of people that I can see and I can call on people, I'll ask everybody to define the air, A-I-R. Everybody will give me a different answer because the air means something different to different people. If you're talking to a doctor, obviously it's something that you need to do and you breathe every day. If you're talking to somebody that climbs a mountain, it might be the air at 10,000 feet. If you're talking about people in LA, they might say, I can see it and breathe it. There's a lot of different definitions. When I put skills on my resume, my delivery and the interpretation of the reader needs to be the same. Otherwise, you're allowing them to interpret it. So I don't need good customer service skills. I don't need, I'm a team player. I'll see that in the interview and I'll look for that. So I just need your hard skills, which are Word, Excel, PowerPoint, typing, data entry, Mac, PC proficient, Adobe, Photoshop, all the way on down the line. If you're in the medical side of it, start listing out all of the different applications that you use or the medical billing type that you use, just right on down the line. And especially we have film people here. We have an accountants as well. Mac and PC, definitely have that on there because we will search. I'm in the West Side. We do have creative clients that want Mac. So I'm going to search for Mac. But please list it out. Don't put MS Office. We don't search for MS Office. We search for Word, PowerPoint, typing, data entry, Outlook. Now, if you're more advanced at a function like Excel, you can put in parentheses Excel. For those accountants and more analytical people, you can put pivot table, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, macros, VB, everything that you have on there, because when I do a search for an analyst and I put analyst in Excel, it's going to bring up thousands of resumes. Once I start putting pivot table, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUPs, it gets my funnel really, really finely tuned. So you want to be in there if you have it. But always keep your resume, the direction of your resume when you're writing it. If the skills aren't going to get you there, I may not need to put it on there. I've had people put the best chocolate chip cookie baker, all this other kind of fun stuff. I'm not reading that and I'm not searching on that. So just the facts, plain and simple, get your foot in the door. For the education, I don't need to have a high school diploma on there if you're already in an advanced education capacity, workshops or anything like that. If the position requires a high school diploma, absolutely put it on there. But if you're already in a junior college, it's already assumed you already have the high school diploma. When I see high school on there and also the higher education, I kind of see a kid that hasn't grown up yet. I want to take that next level. When you go to high school, you're in a certain group, you have certain friends. When you go to college, it's all different and you kind of are reinventing yourself. So let's be proud of that. Let's have that on there and spotlight that. If you have workshops that you've done, certifications, if you want to and don't have a lot of experience in the profession that you're in or looking for, put coursework to include, accounting principles 1, 2, 3, business law, audit, tax, the film side, again, the different courses that would lead to a word search that might come up for your profession. And I hope that makes sense. The only time in education should be at the top of your resume is if it's current. Otherwise, it's to the bottom just because I'm looking for the experience. I'm just checking that off, that you have the degree. Somebody had a question? I saw a hand raised.
Oh, hi, Bob. Yeah, it's Susanna. So there's a question in the chat by Sherry. So she's wondering how she would put into her resume because she's been out of work for a little bit, so she wants to know how to make her resume look eye-catching.
Mhm.
And so how
And I
would
had
you
this
have it
come,
like gaps
thank
and
you.
things like
Yes,
that?
great question, because I had this come up in a workshop on Monday, which was yesterday. You can put it, if there's an explanation for it, you can put the date that you started to present, time off to go to school, time off to become a parent, time off to care for a sick loved one. If you can cover it that way, that's all protected by the EEOC and they can't touch that. It's just an explanation to say, yes, I'm accounting for this time and I'm looking for this new opportunity. If you can do that. If there's nothing really there, you can still put in there, if you're in college right now, time off for school or coursework. And when you get your foot in the door, then you can explain it. You can't get your foot in the door if somebody disqualifies you and screens you out. I want everybody to screen you in. So I'm hoping that answered your question, but if there is a reason why you've taken time off and it's just a quick explanation, I don't explain it other than time off to have a family, time off to take care of a sick loved one, time off to go to school, time off to travel. It's nobody's business really why you have the time off. But like the individual said, sometimes to make that smooth transition, to have all the dates add up. I'm hoping I answered that question correctly. Without knowing the scenario, it's hard for me to say, but those are some examples of what I would do. And we already covered the skills. So make it generic and make it all hard skills. Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Adobe, Photoshop. If you're bilingual, if you're trilingual, if you're fluent or conversational, anything like that, those are things that are measurable, tangible, that I can assess. Good communicator, team player, all that other kind of fun stuff I can't assess. I will see that in the interview and also through referencing. A good resume for those accountants. This is an accounting one. And this is a person that I did place a long time ago, 2009. This individual came out of Westfield Mall. And the first two bullets had the client. They did all of this on the first bullet. And if the second bullet says times 10, so they did all of these accounting times 10 malls. That's all the client needed to know. So when you're asking, man, what are they looking for when they read a resume for 6 seconds or less? I'm just quickly looking at education. I'm seeing what skills are highlighted, because when I do a word search, the skills will be highlighted. Anything, or the words, any word that I do will be highlighted. So I'm just looking at that, looking for stability in your work history. And then boom, I'm reading the first and second bullet, and that's it. And that either says hello or goodbye. You can have as many bullets as you want, but make the first one impactful, make it the highest level responsibilities as it pertains to what you're looking for, or transferable skills that will get you there. If you don't have the actual, you can't get away from certain things if you worked in retail or if you worked in restaurants and things like that, but you certainly can restate it a little bit. You don't have to have, there's no rule of 20 bullets, 5 bullets, 3 bullets. You can have one position that just has 1 bullet, one position that has 20 bullets. You can become anything you want on paper, just give it weight. If you don't have much to showcase, then we go into showcase your degree and your computer skills. And if you worked during school, I'll showcase the stability. I'll sell anything that I can really sink my teeth into. Stability is good. You've got good references. You've got your degree that you're working on. You have good skill sets. That's what I will sell if the person doesn't have much work history, or the work history isn't in the profession that they're looking for. The right person is going to look at that and say, oh my gosh, somebody that's stable, that has some credentials that look like what I need. I'll train them on everything else if they have a good fit for the personality and cultural fit. It's just a matter of getting your resume out to the masses so that somebody is going to see that in your background. I did not share one thing. When I graduated from college, we had what was called a typewriter. We merged into I know you're thinking, gosh, he's only 30, but we merged into a word processor so you could type up a whole document and then hit print, but you still had to print out each one on your own. I sent over 300 resumes and got rejected over 300 times. So if you get rejection, nowadays people just ghost you when we don't see it. But even back in the 80s, well, they were at least nice enough to send you a rejection letter that you could kind of wallpaper your room with. But we all get rejections. It's getting it out to the masses so mass people see it, so that one person needs to say, yes, I need to meet you. That's all. Now, hopefully with this behind you, you have a foundation to build your resume. You have your foundation to write your elevator pitch. You have your foundation to go into an interview and be able to be smooth. The writers are on strike right now, but any single actor, actress, singer, songwriter, anybody that goes out and performs rehearses. If you're restating your resume, you're restating it in terminology that may not be common to you. So please research, or please rehearse it with people. Videotape yourself if you need to. Ask family and friends to suffer through it and let you present your background to them. And so you get comfortable with it so that you're not saying a lot of ums and kind of stumbling over your words, because when you get to that person, you want to have eyes front forward. You want you have your shoulders, confident level, and that confidence really exudes itself in the interview. They're not going to question what you know. Then it becomes more of a conversation, because an interview should be a conversation. I look at an interview as like a parking lot with a speed bump at the beginning. The speed bump is, do they have skill sets that are right for me? After that, it's just going to be a conversation. Can I work with this individual? Is this individual coachable, trainable? Can I mentor them into the position? We all got a job somewhere in our beginning, and we had no skills whatsoever. I was a cook. If you take a look at me, you'll notice that I was a cook. But somebody gave a shot and gave me a position in accounting. I'm hoping it was my personality and my charisma and the ability to learn anything. And that's what got my foot in the door. But I'm sure a lot of people read my resume and said no. So don't take that personally. Make it fuel that fire inside of you to push forward. And if you're getting the wrong people that are coming to you, you're not getting the right answers, look at your resume and shake it up. Keep shaking it up until you get somebody that's going to talk to you that's the right person. Then you've got a good resume. Nobody holds the right answer to it. Presenting yourself obviously is very nice. Now that we have virtual versus in person, you go on camera, boom, that's what they see. And so make sure that your background is good, make sure that this is good as well, and that you're looking. When you are on a virtual interview, you can have your resume in front of you. You just like a teleprompter for the news people. You see them, they don't memorize all that. They have something in front of them. You could have the job description in front of you. You got a resume in front of you. You could have your huge skill sets all listed there, just so you can kind of quickly look over here and have a very smooth and fluid interview. But you don't get asked back a second time to dress right. So you want to make sure that first impression is a lasting one. In person, it's the handshake, and the smile and the confidence. Over a video, it is still the smile. It's I guess in your generation's terms, the vibe that you're putting out. But you also want to be able to have a professional backdrop, have this. I don't want to have mom behind me doing the dishes or kids running around or anything like that. So it is really important to understand that when you're dressing for success virtually, it's everything around you too. But clothing should be professional. Now, don't take this as a must-have. Take it for the profession that you're going for. When you're on certain things, like if you're in West LA, I can have purple spiked hair, I can have piercings and tats and everything else all over the place, and nobody's going to care, because in that profession, it's acceptable. If you're going for something that is more professional, like let's say you're going into a CPA firm or a law firm, yes, you may want to step up the dress a bit. If you don't have all of the right equipment to work with, when I first started my job, I had one shirt, one pair of pants, one shoes, and I went home every night and washed them, ironed them, and until I could afford to the next one. So if you, as long as you have a button-down shirt, slacks, and a pair of shoes, that's good to go. So I know we have a laundry list of things that are on here, and I see Sherry Perry has a question up.
Yes, what about those of us that are more mature and we're looking for employment? How do we stand out? What do we do to help us? You know, we have the experience, and
Right.
like myself, and I'm working on the degree. How do I make myself more, viable, wanting them to hire me, even though I am a more mature employee?
Well, Sherry, I'm right with you
Yes.
because I'm that more mature person as well. I'm in my 60s, so I would hope nobody would look at me and say, this guy can't do it, because I can, and I can run circles around people at my age.
That's right.
But
Yes.
but your resume, the last 3 positions are the last 10 years, and you have the luxury of going to school right now, so you can have school. Typically, the EEOC says don't put a date on your resume, but you can have a date of your education that you're currently in.
Okay.
People can assume whatever they want to assume when it comes to that point. To know me is to love me. Once I get in there, I'm going to knock the socks off them.
Right.
So, and if you have stability in your employment in your past, I'm going on that. Not everybody is looking for someone that's in a certain category, if you know what I mean. Some people want somebody to come in that's just going to be stable, that's just going to show that they have stability in their background, and want to do what they want to do. And, I don't have a lot of things to train you. You've been in work situations before. I don't have to train you on that. I don't have to train you how to interact with your coworkers and all
Right.
that other kind of stuff. So you do come ready-made in a lot of different ways that would help out a manager.
Mhm.
You just have to showcase it, 1-page resume, the last 3 positions or the last 10 years, or you can start it from your graduation date. That's totally acceptable as well.
What about a disability? Do you share that with them in the interview, or?
That's a question for HR.
Okay.
Because I don't have the politically correct answer. The politically correct answer would be, as long as you have the skills, abilities, and knowledge to do the job, it shouldn't matter to them.
Okay.
And the only difference would be is if it's pre-19 whatever, the buildings may or may not have an elevator. I mean, and that's the only really thing that might prohibit somebody, that because I do know some of the older buildings don't have to be accessible with an elevator. But other than that, any position, people should make accommodations.
Thank you.
I placed a person years ago who was hearing impaired as a controller, and she directed a staff of people. And they have the relay service for the phone that you could use back then, and I'm sure now it's more advanced, but it shouldn't stop anybody from doing anything. Not at all. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Hair should be groomed if you have hair. Mine is thinning out. But again, all of these are based on your profession. No matter where you go, it's different professions have different standards, I guess, if you will. So just kind of take that as a food for thought. Nails should be cleaned. Well, unless you're into construction or whatever, then it doesn't really matter if your nails are cleaned or not. It just, we're working. And a lot of these are just common sense. You can always dress conservative for the first interview, figure out what's going on in their environment, and then the next time you can dress appropriately for their culture. So sometimes it's easier just to pull back and be a little bit conservative on makeup, on jewelry, on everything else. And then you'll get to see their culture, their environment, and then be able to adjust. And hopefully it's compatible with both sides. They have to like you, you have to like them. I think that any more tattoos we should probably leave this, because tattoos are so acceptable that in this day and age that Every single sports figure has one, and actor and actresses have those. So that should be taken off. And this is an important one too, because you don't know if somebody is allergic to different scents. So again, conservative your first time in, and then you can kind of adjust. We have a couple clients that are scent free because they do have people in there that do have allergies. And so it's just a better rule, just to kind of less is more, at least for the first interview. It just matters of your opinion, of your impression on the first one. When I went to a client once and I walked up the steps and there were two windows on each side, and they were kind of mirrored, and I went into the one and I was kind of checking and doing all of this. Then I went in, and the CFO's office was the office that I was doing checking my face in. So, I mean, I should have done it in my car. I felt about that high, but just make sure before you go on live, or before you go in the door, that you're all set, you're all ready to go. Great impression. I think we already covered a lot of this. You do your research on the company if you can. If not, you always go in with a more conservative approach first, and then you can adjust as you go there. Make sure that especially in LA, about parking, location, everything else if you're going out there, because you need to put that in your time for getting there, parking, walking, getting there, however you do it, whether it's Uber. I had somebody tell me once that the Uber's always late. I'm like, well, call earlier then. The company is not going to look for excuses. They want somebody to arrive on time. So, or being early means on time. If you arrive to an interview 15 minutes early, just hang out for a bit. Don't go in too early. 5 or 10 minutes is fine, but not anything too early. There's something of, you can't be too eager. Handshake. When I used to do in person, I would ask people to shake the hand of the person next to them. And I'm amazed that not everybody that knows how to shake a hand and firmly. And it could be a male, female, it doesn't matter. Firm handshake, look in the eye, smile. That's a great greeting. Anymore, it's maybe fist bump and maybe just a quick hello. Now that we're kind of in that post-COVID mode, but if people do greet you that way and you're not comfortable, back off, just say, hey, let's do a fist bump or something like that. But if you do go for it, make sure it's not like a wet noodle handshake. You want to just put that confidence forward, and you do it in everything that you do. Introduction, obviously, when I introduce myself, I'm Bob Thompson. My name is Robert, but I go by Bob, so I'm not going to introduce myself as Robert. I don't want people to call me Robert, so I just go by the name that I like to be called. Showing confidence through your body language. I read body language. Everybody that interviews has been taught to read body language. So you want to make sure that you're attentive, you're giving that person that you're speaking to the attention that they deserve, hopefully like they're doing the same to you. And we were talking earlier that it's hard doing workshops for people when I can't see faces and I can't see, that body language shows, yes, I'm getting it, or, oh, that doesn't seem right to me. So when you're in the interview, just make sure you can smile, you can laugh, you can be animated. I want you to be. And the people that are interviewing want you to be. It's nice to kind of work with somebody that has a good personality, and let your own personality come out. If you've ever met somebody and dated somebody, I hate to go back to dating, but it's the same as finding your right position. That's in the first date, by the third date, they're not the same person you met in the first date. Then you want to kind of shake them and say, give me that person back that I had on the first date. That's the same way with interviewing and when they hire you. You want to be who you are, because you can't get away from that. It's going to come out in the end. Be attentive and polite. We've kind of gone over all of this. So, no phones. No phones in an interview. Turn them off. I don't care if it's on screen or not. Nothing worse than when I do an interview with somebody and they're going like this. Tell everybody to stay away from you. Don't talk to anybody. Your eyes, again, committed here, and your cell phone is turned off. You're not continually doing this, because that I know what that is, and you're not into me then. I might as well just end the interview. So please just be very attentive for that 30 minutes or whatever the case may be. We can live without a phone. If we're at home, we can live without the kids and the dogs and everybody else around us. Lock yourself in a closet if you have to, so that you can give your devoted attention to that person. Especially if it's your profession and you really are looking for a career, you want to make sure you're giving that impression, a great impression the first time. Virtual interviews online. We already covered this. I'm already ahead of myself. Clutter-free background. I kind of reversed the two, so I apologize for that. But this one is very important. Please log on a minute or 2 or 3 earlier so that you know your video is working, you know your audio is working, you know the connection is there. A lot of times with Wi-Fi, it's iffy. So if you can ever connect on an Ethernet, it's great. If not, just make sure that you're aware if your video cuts out or if sound a little like this. Nothing more frustrating than not being able to understand the person on the other end, and you're trying to like, oh, hold it, you're cutting in and out. So just make sure that connection is there. The new world, the new workforce, workplace. Obviously, the same as this. We've already gone over all this, so I don't have to go over all of that. But eye contact is important no matter where you go. If you're on a date and the person is doing this all the time, that date ending quick, because you're not the most important person in that room, or at least on the video. So make sure that your attention for that time is on the person that you're speaking with.
Bob, sorry
yes.
to cut in. I just wanted to make sure we allowed enough time for questions.
Sure.
So if we can, I don't know if you wanted to go through.
After all of this is going to be the elevator pitch, but once you've designed your resume, you have new things hopefully about you. You're going to pick and choose. And again, role play, talk it out, speak it so that boom, this is what I'm going to say. You have different skills now that you're looking at. So it's easier to craft your elevator pitch after you've done kind of reassessing your inventory. So that really, that was pretty much the last of this. So yeah, go for it.
Perfect, thank you. So I'll go ahead and launch the poll as well. So everyone, if you could please take a moment to go ahead and answer the poll that you see on your screen. Just 3 simple questions. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and read. There was a question earlier in the chat. But we have a question from Derek. How many pages do you recommend a resume to be?
1 page. If it's not 1 page, get everything that's critical on the first page. If you go with the principle that I'm going to look at that resume for 6 seconds or less, you need to condense who you are and what you can do, knowing that the hiring authorities hired you before, so they're looking for a few key things. So if you put your education on there, your skill sets on there, and they're hardcore skill sets, and you have your position on there with 1 or 2 bullets that really are impactful. If you don't have something towards that, you're showing career stability. If not, we're going into the education and showing the education part of it in the coursework broke down. That's all I need on there, and that's all I'm looking for. So everything else you put on there, I'm not reading anyway. So if you need to have 2 pages, I'm not sure what that 2 pages would include, but have a short synopsis of who you are. If you need a 2-page resume, then bring that to the interview with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bob.
And I have one more thing to add really quickly. I'm sorry. For the networking part of it, the only thing that I could really advise everybody is that if you are unsure of how to present yourself, unsure of how to network, any career fairs that you see out there that are in person, go to. You don't have to be actively looking. What your purpose is to go to every one of those booths and introduce yourself. And you'll get comfortable introducing yourself. You're never going to see those people again. So if you mess up, it doesn't really matter. So your practice that you're doing that is the most impactful thing, because you're going to get comfortable so that when you do meet that right person, smooth as butter.
Thank you. And we have second, we have from Deborah. I'm intrigued that you said not to write soft skills, yet when looking at most job descriptions, the list of soft skills is obvious and quite long. Why not reflect on these as keywords on your resume?
Your resume is yours and it's your representation of who you are. You'll write it any way you want to. I give just tips on how we read them. You can put them on there and those soft skills will be observed in the interview. You'll bring those to the interview. However, how many people are going to read your resume and everything that's on there if the majority only put 6 seconds on it? You may be filtering those people out. So my concern would be is the right person might look at it and not read it. So there's a fine line between too much information, not enough information. What that fine line is, I can't define that. Everybody's going to be different, but we all have this wish list of what we want our ideal person to be, like for a position and for our mate. And we have a foundation of what we won't go below. Everything else is negotiable. I'm going to have this list in front of me, but really what I'm looking for is this. As long as that they fit the personality and cultural fit, I'll teach all of this. So it's hard to explain it to people, but I mean, all those soft skills, yes. Are they important? Absolutely. But if I meet somebody and we talk to somebody, a lot of those are not an issue once I see their personality. I see it live and in person. And I hope that that answers your question, because a resume is one-dimensional, it's very impersonal, and it doesn't have that inflection to really say that I am a good communicator, this and that. I need to get in front of that person. My resume gets me my foot in the door, then I can talk all I want. So I'm hoping that answers your question.
Thank you, Bob. We have another one in the chat, going back to your earlier tips on making sure to add keywords into your resume. So we have how to find keywords from the job description is the question.
Very good question, because each profession is going to be different. So if you see a commonality, that's one thing. If you don't, then do some research. Ask your professors, ask people that are in that profession. Not every position is readily apparent what they're looking for. So you have to lead with what you know first and what your strengths are and what your skill sets are. But if you need to kind of restructure how you word something so it's more generic, if you don't know how to do it, research it or ask other people. If you're on LinkedIn, you can put it in a chat room. Hey, how can I restate this to the people that are maybe in that profession? LinkedIn has a lot of different groups that you can go into. There are accounting groups. There's all these different kinds of groups. You can throw a question out there and, you know, have somebody in the profession ask for it or answer it.
Thank you, Bob.
That's a very good question. I mean, you don't know until you know.
Right. Thank you so much. We have Lawrence. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hello, my name is Lawrence. I just had a question regarding for resumes. What are your thoughts on like having like a picture or like a side or like a small image on the side on the top right or the top left? I've seen that before, but just wanted to know your
pictures. Pictures, no, because EEOC says we cannot discriminate. Any picture that I get with a resume, I automatically delete it because I don't want anything on file that would show that I have any discriminatory practices. Certain countries can discriminate based on, you know, whatever they want to, but in the United States, we can't do that. So anybody that does send a picture, I ask them to take it off. Plus, if you go into the parsing system on our resume database or on Monster Career Builder, it does not parse them into a format. So the format could look a little bit disheveled. So you have to understand that when you send it out into certain things, like into our database, our resume parser will take it in, it will scan it and put it in a format that it understands. If yours isn't formatted in a normal format. Okay, I'm going to look you up on LinkedIn. You know, when I get a resume, the first thing I do is look on LinkedIn to see if it's a real person.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You want to make sure your LinkedIn has a picture that depicts a person in the profession that you're looking for?
Thank you for asking, Lawrence, and thank you for your advice, Bob. We have about a minute left, so I don't see any other questions in the chat or any other hands raised. So I guess,
I have one question then. We
yeah,
have 60 seconds left. So a couple people throw out what one thing you're taking away from this.
thank you. Thank you, Bob. So Lawrence, we can start with you. I know you just, and we can keep going.
Speak up. Anybody that's,
Sure,
I'd love to know what you're taking away.
taking away the car, keeping your car clean because you never know who you might see or meet outside of the interview. That was really good.
Thank
Any
you,
others?
Lawrence. Yeah, anybody else who'd like to unmute? I see one in the chat about on the resume, packing those first 2 bullet points with the most crucial responsibilities or skills that they have. But anybody else who wants to unmute or enter them in the chat, go ahead and feel free to do so as we finish up.
Human nature is if you're reading and you read something you don't like, you stop. So make that first impression a lasting one in your first bullet. Well, I would welcome the feedback if everybody wanted to in the chat room at some point, put it in so Mariana or Jose can share it with us, because I do like to reconfirm that, yes, this was a valuable 60 minutes of your time and my time. It helps me and it'll help you just to kind of reconfirm, yes, you are walking away with something.
Thank you, Bob. We really do appreciate you and the rest of the AppleOne team for taking the time to present on these crucial topics. So once again, thank you so much for partnering with us and presenting today. We really do appreciate. Everyone will receive the link to the recording, so you can also go back and get a refresher on what Bob spoke about today. And thank you all for entering your feedback on the poll as well. We'll share that with you as well, Bob. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. We really appreciate you all.
Absolutely. I appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you,
great day.
everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.